Hey guys, welcome back to a special episode of Reaction Time. I'm joined by my co-host Ben Visser, and I'm Jacqueline Cordova, and it is officially Cyhawk Week. It is. This is like a dramatic way to put it, but I would say this is like my true Super Bowl.
Yeah.
Like it's just this is what I look forward to. It's not like the Denver Broncos are giving me anything to look forward to,
Hey, well, they beat my Minnesota Vikings, so got a little bit
but
more than me there.
by one, I should say.
Yeah.
Ben, it's Cyhawk. I feel like we always start the season accidentally mentioning this during like other very like non-related duels or matches or storylines. So I'm excited that now we get to sit here and strictly only talk about the Cyhawk.
It's great. I mean, we absolutely do that. And in fairness to us, a lot of these early season dual meets are uh, uninteresting to a degree. And then you have a weekend like last week against Wisconsin, which was Dresser essentially said this specifically scheduled to ramp up to Iowa. Get the Big Ten team in here to get ready for the big dog in the Big Ten. So, like, even though, yeah, we talk a lot about Iowa, I think it's warranted just because Iowa is the top dog or one of them up there with Penn State, and they're in our state. This is obviously a very, very long-standing rivalry, and it makes sense that it gets brought up in general discussion. I mean, these are two powers of the sport, so I think it's fair that we talk about them as much as we do.
I should mention, it's a holiday week, so we are flying solo without Aiden. So you'll notice Ben and I are not in this. Technically, I should say
We're in the same place.
we're in the studio. It just so happens that we are physically just in different parts of the studio.
Yeah.
Aiden's at home with his family. It's Thanksgiving week. We have to let the intern go home. Can't keep him chained to his production little corner.
It'd be nice if we could, though. Like, right? Like, it'd be nice.
I know. And the more I sit here, it's like C-Dub and his kids are behind you.
Yep, they sure are.
And then I have Deontay Burton and Brees Hall. I'm telling you, we need to get a singlet on this wall somehow.
A singlet or a wrestling robe. We got to find a way to make that happen.
Kevin Dresser, if you're listening, just give us a robe. It'll be
Yeah,
so much cooler than the
yeah.
jerseys that everybody has.
Everybody has them, and how many people have a wrestling robe? Not very many. So
Exactly.
we can buy that Brees Hall jersey. I can go on NFLshop.com right now and get it. I
But you
can't buy a
can't.
wrestling
Yeah,
robe.
you can't. So I mean, yeah, let's pivot. I was like, how do I pivot this conversation? Um, yeah, big week. Top 10 matchup, new rankings came out. Iowa State is officially number 8. Iowa is what is Iowa? Number
Number
2?
4,
Number 4?
they dropped one. They were number 3, had a closer duel than expected against Oregon State and dropped to 4.
You know, it's always exciting. I have this thought in my head always when we go into Cyhawk. I always think of back when Dresser first took over the program, when he said something like, it hasn't been much of a rivalry because of the fact that, Iowa has very clearly been the dominant team. They have won every single matchup since 2004. So it's not much of a rivalry when, I mean, you're clearly winning
Mm-hmm.
nonstop. So, and it finally feels like we're sitting here about to discuss a duel where these two teams are pretty like they're pretty much there. Like I feel like they're neck and neck. Of course, there's some guys that are better than others, and there's obviously things that make Iowa just a little better than Iowa State, the rankings say so. But I think there's obviously something different. And even the team said it this week, right? This is probably the best this duel has looked on paper.
Mm-hmm.
And we're gonna get to, I guess not us, we'll be in attendance, but people get to watch it on ESPN. I feel like we need to talk about this more. This is a really huge deal, not only for Iowa and Iowa State, but a huge deal for the sport. It's the first collegiate wrestling duel that is going to be broadcasted on ESPN. It's on at 2 p.m. on Sunday. Ben, give me your thoughts as we look at this, not just necessarily from like an Iowa State perspective, but like talk about ESPN being the broadcaster.
Yeah, it's huge. I was the one that reached out to God knows how many people trying to figure out if this was the first one. And eventually, Bill Hoffheimer from ESPN got back to me, senior ESPN communications president, and said, this is the first one. And I actually got an email from him again today asking if we saw the press release, which I did. And the lineup that ESPN has put together for the broadcasting crew is incredible. You have Sean Kenny doing the play-by-play. And for those who don't know who Sean Kenny is, he's worked at ESPN since 2008, and he does play-by-play for a number of college sports, including football, basketball, baseball, tennis, as well as wrestling. He's a Council Bluffs, Iowa native. He did go to the University of Iowa, graduated there in 1999, and he worked in Iowa for a long, long time before he got his job at ESPN. So this is a guy who grew up around the sport. He grew up in Iowa. He's going to know the gravitas of the situation, which I'm very, very excited for. I've listened to a number of his calls because he does the ACC network for wrestling as well. And he does a great job. I think fans are really going to like what he has to say. And then, so he's doing play-by-play, and then they're bringing up 2 color commentators, which is super exciting. One of them is former Iowa State national champion wrestler and coach Jim Gibbons. Gibbons is one of the best color commentators, just full stop. He does a lot of work for the Big Ten network. Gibbons does, and he does work for ESPN as well once the NCAA championships roll around in March. So those 2, A+, A+. And then they're bringing in Jordan Burroughs. And if you don't know who Jordan Burroughs is, he's a couple-time national champion from Nebraska. That's not the important part. The important part is he's a multi-time world and Olympic gold medalist. This is, some people will argue, the best American wrestler to ever take the mat. So to get him along with Gibbons and Sean Kenny is going to provide an electric viewing experience. Like, these are 3 guys who know wrestling, who love wrestling, and are very, very passionate about the sport. Even if you're a casual viewer, you're going to really like what they have to say. You're going to learn a lot from watching the broadcast. And I'm not sure ESPN could have picked 3 better people for this duel, because you do have the Iowa tie with Sean Kenny. Now, he's a play-by-play guy. You expect him to be pretty unbiased. Hopefully that's the case. I'm guessing it will be. He is a professional, and don't just think because he's Iowa he's going to be super biased. I don't think that's the case. Jim Gibbons, obviously Iowa State. He does do a good job of being unbiased. He might lean a little bit Iowa State, so Iowa State fans rejoice a little bit. He is going to tell it like it is, though. He's an old school wrestling guy, right? Even those old school wrestling guys, even though they might be biased, they're going to tell you like it is. And then Jordan Burroughs, who doesn't have a tie to either program, he's going to be electric. So, and then they got Quint Kesnich doing the post-match interviews. Apparently they're going to have an interview with the winner after every single match.
Which is fascinating.
That is fascinating. And Quint Kesnich does the NCAA championships as well. After every championship match, he pulls off the winning wrestler and pulls them aside and interviews them. So he has a lot of experience doing that. So 4 really, really strong commentators for this.
Which I would like to give a shout out to Brent Metcalf, who has at one point in his life defeated Jordan Burroughs in 2008. Beat him 60-30 in the semifinals. There you go. So that's who's in the coaching corner for your reference. No, I'm excited. Like you said, this is a really all-star cast. I think, especially for the sports, really sports in general that are kind of undervalued when it comes to this area of it, when it comes to the broadcasting of them. It's sometimes really hard to find really solid people to do these roles. And like you said, ESPN could not have picked a better crew to do the first collegiate duel that's going to be on ESPN. I'm excited. I'm really, really excited for not only Iowa and Iowa State. I think when it comes to wrestling, it's one of those where obviously I went to Iowa State. My Iowa State fandom will always come out in the Cyhawk. I always want Iowa State to win, and it's no different in the sport of wrestling. But my appreciation for the sport itself makes me able to look at Iowa wrestling a little still aggressively, but still like I'm just very excited that this is going to be, I said this on Twitter, it's going to be a dogfight. I love how competitive it's going to be. I think people who tune in are going to be able to watch like high quality wrestling. In years past, we I mean, last year we saw Iowa State be competitive when we saw them put it to them, but at the end of the day, the Hawks still come out the winners. They have been, like I said, for years. But this, like Dresser said, in availability, he said ESPN made the right choice when they picked this duel because a lot of people are going to be curious, like, oh, this is on ESPN. It's going to be Sunday of a holiday week. There's not much going on. So I think a lot of people who are going to suddenly flip the channel and see this on, they're going to be like, oh, okay, college wrestling. What's it doing on ESPN? Let's watch it. And I feel like almost at any match, any part in the lineup that they may flip the channel, they're going to have a good match to watch. And I think that's really important, well beyond just Iowa and Iowa State. It goes for the whole entire sport. And like you said, they sent out, ESPN put out that information today, how ESPN platforms are going to feature over 200 collegiate events during the 2023-24 NCAA wrestling season, which is huge, huge, huge. And I texted you today and I said, I have a rant about this because obviously as a whole community, we're all like hawks on like just any news that comes out about college wrestling, we're all on it. We're all here to have an opinion. And I saw somewhere on Twitter that it was said like this was a surprising announcement based on how low ratings were last season. And I actually would beg to differ. I think that's actually more reason to do it. That's more reason for a media giant like ESPN to step in and give us consistent and reliable and high quality broadcasting of the sport. I don't think low ratings from last season necessarily have anything to do with the quality of the product. If anything, the NCAA took huge steps in bringing in these new rules. The takedown rule alone is already making a huge difference. Imagine when these top programs start meeting, think about Iowa, Penn State, think about when Iowa State and Missouri meet up. Like, there is no better time for someone like ESPN to take focus of something like college wrestling and put it on a bigger platform, because those lower ratings or viewership numbers, I think, are only going to skyrocket the more that someone like ESPN gives college wrestling the opportunity to be on these bigger channels and give them this quality broadcasting, because quite frankly, it sucks watching really good wrestling on shitty quality production.
It sure does.
And that's my rant.
That's a good rant. If I can add to it, because me and Jackie, we were texting about this and we're like, oh wow, we have the exact same rant. If I could add a little bit, what Jackie's referring to is low ratings. So ESPN had climbing ratings for the NCAA championships for like a half dozen years or so, 5-6 years. Ratings kept climbing. And then last year at the NCAA championships, they dipped a little bit. It wasn't even a big dip. It was just a little bit of a dip. And some people in the wrestling world panicked, like, oh my gosh, our sport is going to not be broadcast on ESPN anymore. And I think some really good changes were made. Like Jackie said, I think the takedown rule is phenomenal. It has made the sport super, super exciting. Kevin Dresser mentioned this during media availability today. Kyson Terrakina probably doesn't get a major decision against number 5 Eric Barnett this last weekend if the new rules hadn't changed. Not because he couldn't do it, but because Kyson saw that it was available to him. So he kept getting takedowns. That makes the sport more exciting. That makes number 18 Kyson Terrakina beat a 2-time returning All-American by a major decision all that more exciting. So my point is, yes, the NCAA championships ratings declined just a little bit. But like Jackie said, highlighting these big duels like ESPN is, like this Iowa State dual meet, is only going to increase excitement for March. Because imagine if you're a casual fan or a casual viewer, you see what's going to be an electric atmosphere. Will Feldkamp today, Iowa State's 184-pounder, said that they had sold over 12,000 tickets. Hilton holds over just 14,000. So 2,000-ish tickets still remain out there if you're looking for them. But it's going to be electric atmosphere. The coaches are electric, right? Jackie and I are talking about the action on the mat, which there will be great action up and down the lineups. But like, both coaching staffs have some personality to them. So that's going to be entertaining for a person who doesn't necessarily know wrestling. And then just me and Jackie know this because we're around it so often, but just the feel of it gets in your bones. So ESPN broadcasting this is only going to help them in March when they want to drive even more viewers. Because if you're watching this dual meet, like, hey, I'm going to watch the NCAA championships. I remember that Iowa State dual meet from earlier this year in November. Let's see what the NCAA championships look like. I think so. Two things. I think it'll absolutely help their March viewership numbers. And second, if this goes well, I would love to see more. ESPN would be great, but ESPN2 matches, more ESPNU matches, because like Jackie mentioned, Iowa State, Missouri is going to be electric. That's going to be such a good match. And I think some of the reason we haven't had any ESPN dual meets beforehand was Iowa, Penn State are confined to the Big Ten network, which is a very good resource. Don't get me wrong. Big Ten network has done great for wrestling. But Iowa State and Missouri are not confined to that.
Right.
We can be on ESPN2 or ESPN maybe again. So it's just one of those things where it can absolutely be a catalyst. So I was also a little bit shocked and disappointed in the lack of perspective that some people have with, oh, how is this happening? We had declining viewership numbers. It's happening because of partially because of the declining viewership numbers and wanting to feed into that more come March, which I think is very, very smart on ESPN's part. We need to prove them right, by the way. If you can't make it to Hilton on Sunday, tune in just to, well, A, because it's going to be a phenomenal dual meet, but B, drive up the viewership numbers.
Yeah, and I mean, like we said, there has not been this good of a Cyhawk, and we're just talking on paper right now. Like when you look at who is going up against who, and we'll go through that here soon. But like this is probably the most, I don't even know how to word it. I'm getting so wordy, but like Iowa State has never been better. Like truly top to bottom, Kevin Dresser has put together the best of the best lineup he can have to go up against Iowa. And Ben and I have gone through the numbers and we've gone through the lineup. And there are, like I said, there's a couple of matches that you'll kind of see could swing either way. But Iowa State has a legitimate chance to finally break this curse of consistently losing to Iowa. And this goes so beyond just winning this rivalry. It goes into looking ahead to those matches against Missouri, give or take. That's the last duel of the year. But it goes towards the long-term goal of winning a team title, right? If Iowa State can break this curse and this, hump on the back of like just consistently losing to Iowa, this really, really like sets the tone for what kind of team Iowa State can be come next year. And so there's a lot on the line here. And like you said, outside of just the matches, wrestling is so entertaining. And I think casual fans and people who are just kind of learning about it and getting interested have no idea how entertaining this sport can be. And like you said, the coaches are such a great example of this. I'm trying to envision someone who's never watched college wrestling before, and they pan the camera to the Brands brothers, which head coach for Iowa, and his brother's the assistant coach. They are short men, but they fly. They physically fly off the ground during certain matches. Honestly, almost every match, they are midair, coaching, yelling, screaming, losing their heads. Don't let Derek St. John fool you. He's a quiet guy. He doesn't do a lot of media stuff. But during the Cyhawk, last time I was in Hilton, he was the chirpiest one. He was the one that was being held back, I think, by Metcalf. Like there's just so much entertainment, and it's not like trashy entertainment. It is because these people care so deeply about the sport, about winning. I loved Younger. I saw this somewhere. Younger said, he was asked like, what's something people don't know about Dresser? And he went on this whole rant about how Dresser really cares about winning. Like that, like it's almost like we obviously know he wants to win. Who doesn't want to win? But it's almost like an extra step forward. And I think we do often forget just how like passionately angry Dresser is because of the fact that we get him, when he's prepping, he's coming in, he knows we're going to ask him questions. He's really good at like working the room, but like he really is. Look back at his career. Like he's ready to rip heads off just as much in the coach's corner as when he was the guy in the ring as as it was mentioned, in his Hawkeye singlet when he was competing for the Hawkeyes.
Mm-hmm.
So I think this is a great display of just how much passion runs so deep in every single person who is involved in it, right? Every single coach, every single guy on the bench who may not be wrestling. And Dresser said on Sunday after the Wisconsin duel that his team has a chip on their shoulder. Like they put it there themselves. So I feel like those guys are just so ready to prove themselves. And I hate feeling so confident, but I'm feeling really good about Sunday.
Yeah, you're putting yourself in a dangerous place.
I know.
But I mean, yeah, I mean, I've gone over the dual meet on paper as well, and we'll see what happens. You got to wrestle the matches, but we'll go weight by weight, and we'll figure out where we land at the end of it.
Do you think Andy has to get police escorts for the Brands brothers like Dresser had at Carver?
Carver, he might. I don't know. That's a good question.
I feel
That's
like you don't need that at Hilton.
probably don't need it, but it would also be kind of funny if it did happen.
Yeah, I remember last year they were like being escorted around. Casey Swiderski was taken in the back by police escort. It's, it's gonna be a fun one. I'm really excited. I will be on the floor taking photos and getting as much physical content as I can from down there. I even thought about like clipping a camera to my camera so I can be
Mm.
taking video and photos at the same time. And Ben's going to be at the media table. So we'll have as much physical content as our bodies can give you on Sunday. And I'm pumped. I think I'm honestly just really excited to feel Hilton be really full and explosive. I
Mhm.
really feel, and again, this is like a danger zone, right? I feel hopeful that it's gonna finally be what you want it to be so badly, where there's more Iowa State fans than Iowa fans. We'll see. Who
Mhm.
knows? But I just feel like those diehard Iowa State fans, the ones who have been through the trenches with this program that go well beyond Kevin Dresser being here, are just so ready to just
Mhm.
feel the crumble of the Hawks in their home. So I feel like they're going to be there. I feel like they're going to show up and I feel like they're bringing their friends. I know several people personally who are going to their first Iowa State wrestling duel, who are
Mhm.
going to their first just college wrestling event. I know people who reached out just to ask questions. Like people on Twitter have reached out to me to ask, like, how early should they get there? They're taking their kids for the first time. Like, there's a lot of people going. And Iowa fans, Iowa wrestling fans are way different breed than any other Iowa Hawkeye fans.
Yes, they are.
So they're going to show up and they're bringing their troops because they're probably sitting in their corner of the world like they're feeling too confident. So I'm
Yep.
excited. It's going to be, I want to feel the way I felt at Carver last year. I felt like my heart was going to explode
Mm.
and like the
Yeah,
best
Carver's
way.
something special. If Hilton can get Carver levels of excitement and loudness, it's going to be among the best atmospheres Hilton has ever experienced. Obviously, I think it was like 2012 or 2013, the Oklahoma Iowa State game where Iowa State came back from 18 points down
Mm-hmm.
and won. That was an electric atmosphere. Obviously, Iowa State Kansas is always electric, and wrestling can have that kind of feel. I really believe it can get that loud. It can have that kind of feel. So if you're a more casual fan, maybe you're one of the people who haven't uh, been to an Iowa State dual meet or been to a dual meet ever in general, Carver Hawkeye is louder for wrestling than it is for any other event, bar none. Now, it's going to be hard for Iowa State fans to be louder for wrestling than it is for basketball just because they're so loud for basketball,
Mm-hmm.
but it can reach those levels. And if it is a 70-30 split, Iowa State fans, I'm going to be elated. I am expecting a 60-40, at worst 50-50 again. But if it can be 60-40, 70-30 Iowa State fans, I think we're going to have a really, really loud and exciting atmosphere.
Well, and ticket sales are always really interesting. My good pals at Stalemates, they tweeted a screenshot. Currently, you can get a lower bowl ticket. There are certain lower bowl areas that are at almost $500,
Whew.
$489 to be exact.
Wow.
I don't think I've ever seen a Cyhawk ticket in Hilton that much.
No, for sure not. Not in Hilton. No, that's next
So,
level.
so that's insane. And season tickets were what, like $100?
Season tickets were $100. You bet.
So, yeah, like I said, highly anticipated top 10 matchup. It's going to be a fun one. NCAA tweeted out that it's one of their duels to watch this week, which is really exciting. I mean, NCAA also called out for, I'm going to say his name wrong, Gabe Arnold, Iowa. He's Iowa's 174 pounder. He's their wrestler of the week. Kyson Terrakina got Big 12 wrestler of the week. Like, just a lot of things really going into this, just feeding into it, right? Millions of
Mhm.
different things coming in from different directions. But yeah, no, let's get into the action. We have 10 matches. We assume, I can say, Ben, from our conversation, he'll probably go conventional, start at 125, end at 285. Probably pretty safe to assume, just given the duel itself.
Yeah, that's traditionally what happens. Both the Brands brothers and Dress are traditionalists, so maybe they do something different, but I don't even know what weight they would end on if they did something different. So to me,
Right.
85 or 25 to 285 makes the most sense.
And Kyson Terrakina had himself a weekend. He had a really good weekend. He got a big win over a ranked opponent. He beat out number 6, Eric Barnett. I'm not sure what Barnett is ranked at this week, but Kyson jumped up to number 8 from, am I seeing that right? My glasses? Yep.
Yep.
Number 8 from number 17. So Kyson Terrakina, I think, is going to be one of those guys, and he's going up against Drake Ayala, number 17 for Iowa.
They essentially flip flop those two because Ayala was a top
Yeah.
10 guy. So
I think Kyson's the type of guy who benefits from the idea of it's 90% mental, 10% physical, and him being able to get that win that he wanted so badly. He expressed that after his was, oh my gosh, see, I'm so wordy today just because I'm so excited. But he was just so excited because he said that it was a win he really wanted all week. So he mentally prepared for it. He said that all he did was he just kept telling himself he was better than him and he was going to beat him and there was no other option. And I feel like that's exactly what he's doing this week. So honestly, as much as Drake Ayala probably kind of looked a little better than him at first, I lean Kyson Terrakina, but I do think it could go either way.
yeah, this is one that I have listed as a toss up, but I'm leaning Terrakina just because he did look so good last weekend. And I always think about the Derek St. John quote that he gave during Kyson's freshman year. Kyson has no idea how good he is. He just is blissfully unaware of how talented he is. And like Jackie said, once he starts clicking mentally, once that starts happening for him, he's going to be a force. And 125 is a weight that's wide open this year. Dresser even said it during a media availability today on Tuesday when we're recording this, that if Kyson wrestles like he did last week in March, he's going to be a problem for guys. And I like Drake Ayala. I think he's a very good wrestler. He had a weird loss this last weekend to an Oregon State wrestler who is, I didn't think, nearly as good as him. So Ayala's probably going to have some motivation behind him of, all right, that wasn't who I am. Let's make sure I get right before, or let's make sure I get right for this Iowa State duel. But just going off experience, Terrakina is a more experienced wrestler. He's older. He's been through a lot. I like Kyson in this matchup, but it is a toss up. Like, let's be clear about this. It could go either way. But I would lean Terrakina, A, because I think he has more and better experience, and B, it's in Hilton, and you'd like to think that home stadium advantage is a real thing, especially with the new rules. When you get a takedown, it gets real loud. And we saw it against Eric Barnett. He got takedown after takedown, just kind of snowballed for him, and he got a major decision. So I wouldn't expect a major decision. Let's be clear about that. But this is one that Terrakina is going to have a really good chance at winning.
Well, and I think, like I said, I feel like Kyson's the type of guy who will fully thrive off of the environment, and he will be someone who comes out of that type of win and it just makes him hungrier. And Dresser's talked about it in the past about how Terrakina is someone who struggles with the details. Well, he's now seen what happens when you pay attention to the details. And
Yeah.
that was a win over like a top 10 guy that he wasn't supposed to beat and no one was expecting him to. So I'm
Two-time
excited.
All-American. Beating a two-time All-American is
Yeah.
nothing to sneeze at.
Right. So I'm excited to see how he matches up. And I'm really hoping that he does come in with the same type of energy and same type of fire, because it would be a major setback to see him not do that. Like, I'm really hoping this is like a fire that just kind of continues on. So yeah, I'm, like I said, leaning there. So it'll be interesting. It'll be interesting to start with a match like that could really go one way or the other. And I think, again, that's another thing that might fuel Kyson. It's like, do you want to set the tone for your team? Because you're the first one out the tunnel. So if Kyson wins, that just sets the emotions forward, right? It gets everyone else amped up. It gets Evan Frost amped up, who's going to be in his first Cyhawk. So it'll be interesting to see how he responds to that. And Kyson's I would say he is one of my favorites. I said it before he got injured last year. He's one of my favorite guys in the lineup, just because he has all of the tools to be, like St. John said, to be really, really freaking good. So, but looking at Evan Frost at 133, he's going to be going up against Brody Teske, household name, if you will, for us.
Yeah. Brody Tesche's been around the block a time or two. Started his career at Penn State, transferred to UNI, now transferred to Iowa. And he's a guy who has had up and down success in his career. He's been as good as he's an All-American caliber wrestler. And then he'll lose a match like, what are you doing? So this is essentially a flip-flop of the Kyson Terrakina Drake Ayala match, where Brody Teske is the one with experience here. Brody Teske is the one that's experienced things. Evan Frost is a freshman. He's getting his feet wet. He's looked good so far. So this is one where I'm leaning Teske, just because he does have the experience. He is good on top. This is one where if Frost can't win, keep this to a decision, because we're going to talk about this later probably, but bonus points could be a really big deciding factor in this dual meet. So if things aren't looking good for Evan Frost, make sure you don't get turned. Make sure you don't give up a handful of takedowns. And keep it competitive. And if you keep it competitive too, you're going to give yourself an opportunity to win at the end. So this is one where there's a world where Frost wins. There is. It's not hopeless for Frost, but this is one where I think Teske and Iowa are probably favored.
It's kind of like when his brother wrestled against Cleveland State. He wrestles until the final second. And I think that if Evan can do the same thing, just give Brody Teske his 1000% effort until that very last second, he could find himself getting those sudden takedowns that might give him the upper hand, or he might find himself getting Brody Teske in a random moment of weakness and get a near fall. You truly never know. And I think the rule changes and just having the endurance to fight it out until the end, it could really work out in his favor. Only because I bet Brody Teske looks at someone who's Evan, a freshman coming in. It could be easy to make it to the third and then get a little relaxed and think you have it in the bag. So, but no, I agree with you. If Evan can't win it, this is where you got to keep it to a decision and show up for your team in that way to keep Iowa from getting bonus points, because that's ultimately, like history has shown, is what's going to set them apart at the end of the day. So, but speaking of matches that will go into bonus points, I think 141, Anthony Echemendia, Real Woods. I'll be honest, I really like Real Woods. I think this is one that I look forward to, just because I do really enjoy Real Woods as an athlete. And I want to bring up a point about Anthony that Coach shared when it came to the weight change.
Mm-hmm.
So Anthony and Casey Swiderski were going head to head for that 149 spot. Ben and I have talked extensively about how shocked we were, just because these are two extremely talented guys. And Dresser shared with us that it was Anthony that went to him and said, Coach, we need to have Casey Swiderski in the lineup. And I think that is what a selfless thought to think, okay, how do I put my team in the best position that I can? And he was certified at 141, so he could make that cut. And clearly it was a weight cut that he felt comfortable making. And I think that is a very important thing to note about Anthony, that was a decision made by him to kind of read the room and acknowledge that Casey Swiderski is an extremely talented wrestler who needed to be in there in order for them to have team success. Like, that's a
Yeah,
lot of maturity for your program to have.
absolutely. And to build off that point, Dresser said that after practices, even when Echemendia was at 49, he'd end practices weighing about 145 or 146. So that's just 5 more pounds that he's got to cut. So it seems like a pretty natural cut for him. Real Woods is ranked number one. Let's be clear about that. He is the number one ranked wrestler in the country right now at 141 pounds. Anthony Echemendia is somewhere in the teens. He's ranked number 19 according to Intermat. So Real Woods is heavily favored, but I think it's also important to remember that last year, Casey Swiderski was the only one to get a takedown in that match against Real Woods. Swiderski lost that match 4-2, but that was because of some stall calls and some other things that may or may not have happened toward the end of that match. But Real Woods is vulnerable. And what I really have liked about watching Anthony wrestle is similar to, not exactly like, but similar to David, he's never out of position and he never looks panicked. He's always going forward. He's always in a really good stance. And he's not spastically shooting, but his shots come quick, fast, and they are calculated. So I'm going to be interested to see. This is a match where it could get into bonus point territory with Real Woods, but if it's not, it's going to be a very tactically wrestled match that I hope casual fans will appreciate, just because there might be some shots. There's probably going to be some good defense here and there, but just the tactics of the hand fight and how they're circling each other and things like that are going to be, that could be something to watch there, just because as Echemendia, as a freestyle guy, he's so comfortable on his feet. He is not going to look out of place at all on his feet. So just that matchup when they're neutral is going to be the thing to watch in that match, in my opinion.
I honestly think that what gives Anthony Echemendia the edge in this to be able to hang with Real Woods is his experience. You know, he might be new to the Iowa State lineup, but wrestling, I mean, he's been doing it since he was a kid. He, like you said, his freestyle experience, he's gone up against guys from all over the world who are very talented. And I think that's something that's really going to play in his favor, because he'll go into the ring against Real Woods and not be intimidated by the fact that he was the runner-up this past March at 141 pounds. I don't think he'll be shaken up by the fact that he's a 3-time All-American, you know? And I think that's what matters. It's another one of those like mental versus physical. So I'm very excited for that match. Give or take, we won't have the drama that we had last year with Casey and Real Woods, because you put two hotheads on the mat, but I think you get a different type of controversy with these two when they go head to head. So it'll be interesting. That's probably my favorite match. I should probably ask you which one's your favorite. You should just let us know which one's your favorite, because I actually don't know.
It might be Terrakina and Ayala, just to see if Terrakina can keep it going.
Okay, fair. But moving on, a fun one.
This also might be my favorite one, the one we're about to talk about.
I was going to say, how could I forget about this one? 157 pounds.
Nope, 49.
Oh, sorry, I'm getting ahead of myself. Casey Swiderski, how dare I? 149. Casey Swiderski goes up against number 9, Victor Voinovich.
Yep.
Ben, hit us with your thoughts.
So Victor, along with a lot of people on Iowa's lineup, transferred from a Big 12 school to Iowa. Victor Voinovich wrestled for Oklahoma State last year, and in that dual meet, he wrestled Panero Johnson. Panero Johnson beat him 3-1. Victor is one of those guys who can be pretty stingy when it comes to defending shots and things of the nature. And he doesn't have a ton of offense himself. Their last match against Oregon State, he beat Nash Singleton 6-3 in sudden victory. Nash Singleton is an unranked wrestler. So for that match to go to sudden victory is, I think, a little bit disappointing for Iowa fans. Casey Swiderski, coach said it last week that Casey has had the best 2 to 3 weeks of practice he's ever seen from him. In the Wisconsin duel, I think we saw that. He got a takedown in the first period. He got a takedown early in the third period. We saw what I've wanted to see from Casey for a long, long time. So if Casey can wrestle his match, which he's going to, like Casey's one of those guys that he's going to make sure he wrestles his match. I think technically, I think it's a toss-up favoring Swiderski. But if Casey wrestles his match, I think he wins. I don't think Victor has the offense to hang with Swiderski. And I think Swiderski's got enough pace and enough screw you-ness to him that he will find a way to get a takedown or two, just like he did against Real Woods, right? He found a way to get a takedown against Real Woods. He's going to find a way to get a takedown or two against Victor. And I'm not sure Victor has the offense to keep up.
I truly believe that Casey Swiderski was made for the Cyhawk duel.
He was like a Metcalf.
Yeah, honestly, that is a really good example. Like, just the angriest, scrappiest, just look at him wrong and he'll hit you. And I mean in a good way. I don't mean in a bad way at all. And I really like Casey. I think he's a really nice kid. So, no, I'm excited. It'll be interesting to see. I echo everything you said. I didn't have too big of an opinion there. I definitely am curious to see how it plays out, but definitely one of those where I lean Iowa State, but who the heck knows? That's the theme, right?
That's why they wrestle the matches.
Yes. And now to the one I was trying to frantically get to, 157 pounds. We have Cody Chittum, who, what an exciting guy. I have thoughts on his questions, I should say, on his workouts, who's going to go up against Ben's favorite wrestler, Jared Franick. I feel like you went on a Jared Franick rant 2 years ago.
I did. I sure did. And yeah, for those who may not know, Jared Franick, when David Carr was at 157 pounds and they wrestled, did next to nothing every time they wrestled. And it's just one of those guys, like, just try something. Give yourself a chance. By standing there and getting taken down, you do not help yourself. And the part that I every time I see his ranking, I think I'm missing something because he's ranked number 2 in the country, Jared Franick is. And I just have never seen it. And maybe it's because he's wrestled David Carr, and David Carr is a generational talent. I don't know. But even this last week, again, against Oregon State, number 2, Jared Franick won by decision against an unranked wrestler. Why is a number 2 guy in the country winning by only decision against an unranked wrestler? To me, that makes no sense. To me, if you truly are great, you're winning most points, especially this year. Takedowns worth 3 points. We've seen that with guys like Younger Bastida, Kyson Terrakina. Go out there and get takedowns, get action going. So Jared Franick, again, I'm going on a rant, is among my least favorite wrestlers to watch. And this weekend, watch, he'll prove me wrong. He'll take Cody Chittum down 4 times and give me the double birds on the way out. But it's just, I don't know. I've never seen it with Jared Franick. I've been told by Ryan Workman, an SID at Iowa State, who we used to be at North Dakota State, really nice guy, Jared Franick is. So, like, I'm sure he is. I think that's great. But I am not a fan of the way he wrestles matches. Now, Cody Chittum, on the other hand, we've only seen 2 matches from him, but this guy, I understand why he was ranked number 1 recruit in the nation. He is special. He's going to become more special. To get to my prediction, and then I'll let Jackie talk because I'm nice. I will concede my opinion of him and assume that other people are correct in what they're watching. I have a toss-up favoring Franick for this one. So I think Franick probably wins on paper, I guess, just because there's no way everyone else is that wrong. And I do have pride and I am biased. So let's say that Franick wins that one by decision. But if Chittum wins, I'm not going to be surprised at all. And next podcast, you might get a few I told you so's.
Well, and the difference between Chittum from his first match to his second match, give or take, it was very different guys, very different styles. But in the duel against Wisconsin, I truly put my camera down at one moment because I was like, how is he physically, like, hanging on that guy that way? There's a moment, I'm going to go back and find it and, like, get a screenshot of it and share it on Twitter. But, like, there was a moment where his opponent was just kind of, like, standing and Chittum was, like, monkey hanging sideways on him, which is why, again, I hate when we go through breakdowns like this because I find myself saying, Iowa State's going to win this one. Oh, Iowa State's going to win this one. But like, that's the only thing that makes me feel like, you know what, Chinham can be Frantic because, like you said, Frantic is just a very reserved, very like safe wrestler. He's not scoring a lot of points. Whereas, like, I feel like that type of like just hanging on you, not taking too many shots, securing like one takedown to say you got it. I feel like that's not going to match up well for him against Chittum
I
because
don't
we
think so
watched
either.
Chittum freaking pretzel himself into that win, which was so impressive. So that's the only thing that I feel when I look at this is that I've seen Frantic just do nothing.
Mm-hmm.
And then
More than one.
Chittum, yes. And then see Chittum do all these like crazy, weird moves that I feel like are going to throw him off. But like you said, people much smarter than us who spend way more time watching everybody across the board have him ranked at number 2. So there's a reason. And give or take, there's not as much experience with Chittum, right, for them to have him ranked in a different spot the way Frantic does. But that's just one where knowing the two styles of these guys, at least from what we know from Chittum so far, I just don't see how this works out for Frantic. But like you said, for all we know, he could go in there and he listens to us somehow for some reason and he hears that we said this and he goes and finds a way to take Chittum down like 4 times. But I think it's just the funkiness of Chittum that's going to throw him off. Because who else at 157 has been that funky of a wrestler? I can't think of one from David's matches.
It's been a while. Yeah, I'm with you. No, the Chittum's got some bendiness to him. Like there was a couple times in that Wisconsin match, like, oh, look out for your knee. It's like, oh, I guess it's fine.
Well, Aiden's not here to share this, but he said that when he was watching it, there was a moment where he's like, why does it look like he just tore his ACL?
Yeah.
Because what a bendy guy. It kind of makes me think of like watching Jarrett Dagan wrestle, except Jarrett had length, so he could bend that way, and Chittum's not really that tall. I think he's just doing like yoga at all times when he's not in the wrestling room.
It seems like it.
But I digress. Like you said, Frantic at the end of the day is ranked number 2, so keep that in mind when we go into that one. 165 pounds. Our David Carr, our sweet David Carr, consistent David Carr. I like when Coach talks about him. Rob Gray asked him a question. I can't remember the exact question, but it's basically like, was it something along the lines of like when he throws David out there, is there ever any like worry or something, right? And Coach basically was like, no. There's never a time to hesitate to throw David down in a mat. So he's going to go up against number 5, Michael Coliendo. Did I say that right?
I think so.
Okay.
Another North Dakota State transfer.
I would say another transfer. Again, this is one of those moments, and Dresser, you can watch this in the weekly availability video, but he talked about how football's about to learn what the transfer portal can do right now, the way these guys will just play hopscotch on these teams. And I said it on the podcast, I think last week or the week prior, how Iowa was not out here sitting in their offices twiddling their thumbs. They went and found a way to get guys from all these different teams. And by the way, from Big 12 products here. But like Coach David Carr, every time he has a match, I only truly feel something in terms of like, how's this going to go? When I know he's going to have like really tough opponents, so like a Keegan O'Toole match, a Quincy Monday match. But like, I feel pretty good about this one. I don't even know that I have necessarily like a big opinion. I'm just excited to see David in action like I always am.
Yeah, I am with you. I'm only nervous. I wouldn't even say Quincy Monday at this point. I'm just like, it's just Keegan O'Toole for me. It's just David Carr, Keegan O'Toole, and that's it. So like Michael Caliendo is ranked number 5 in the nation. David Carr just beat number 4 Dean Hamady of Wisconsin 2-0, but that score is very misleading. David Carr probably should have had 2 sets of 2 back points, so it probably should have been somewhere in the neighborhood of 6-0. I'm not going to go all the way to 8. You can make an argument for it. Dresser wanted it to be 8-0. He thought there was 3 sets of 2 backs. But David Carr and Caliendo didn't wrestle last year just because Iowa State didn't wrestle North Dakota State and they didn't meet in the Big 12 championships. But David's going to win this match. This one in the Woods match, I'm very confident about, and even for Carr, more confident, David's going to win this one. I have little to no doubt about that. I could see it being approach bonus point territory, similar to the Kyson Terrakina match last week, where if David Carr's feeling himself, and it sounds like he is, everything coach is saying, David Carr's feeling himself this week, it could get into bonus point territory for Iowa State.
And I think it's one of those where it's highly crucial of David to get bonus points, because when you go into a matchup like this one, it is not guaranteed that Iowa State's going to win very many of these matches necessarily. Like we said, there's these toss-ups. So guys like David, who are those consistent performers, are crucial to that bonus point battle. And so I'm really hoping to see David get major decision. Of course, ideally a tech fall. But this is David's final Cyhawk. No one is more passionate about these types of wins, right? So getting the Cyhawk win that they haven't had in so many years, and getting the team titles and having team success. So I think that probably fuels a lot of David's focus this week. The way coach said, you could just tell he was in a different zone. I think a lot of it comes from him wanting this so badly for his team. And sure, David gets wins every single time, right? But this time it's like he needs to make it like that tech fall is very crucial and major decision, either or. So I'm excited, as always, to watch David. I enjoy watching how he changes up his style and how he becomes even more entertaining, which is just insane to me that he can become more entertaining when he already is so entertaining. But 174 pounds, MJ Gaitan, he wrestled in this duel last year as a freshman. He got thrown into the Wolves. Coach felt confident that he was the perfect amount of funk to kind of try and throw off, Nelson Brands. Unfortunately, Nelson Brands won't be wrestling this year. He was part of the gambling situation, but that would have been a fun rematch.
It would have.
But no, so this year, MJ's going to go up against Gabe Arnold, who I mentioned earlier was the NCAA Wrestler of the Week. He had really big win this weekend. Who did he beat?
All-American Travis Whitlake.
Oh my gosh, yes. Travis Whitlake, former Oklahoma State wrestler.
Yep, another transfer guy.
I will say that I like MJ's confidence. He's a little more reserved and quiet. And I think that because he's just kind of naturally more quiet, it kind of masks his, what's the word I want to use? He definitely has an attitude.
Yeah,
and
he's some moxie.
Yeah, I wish it was more out on display, but I could tell just from asking him questions that he's going into this with a chip on his shoulder. He is going in there angry, and he won't show it. 'Cause again, young guy, he has a baby face. I hope he's not listening so he doesn't hear me call him that. But I like that for him. I like that he is feeling smug about it. And obviously Gabe Arnold is going to be feeling really good after that type of win, which is great. It'll make it for a good matchup. But I think Dresser said it too. It's like MJ's coming in ready to make a statement, and this guy is coming off of a big win. So he's riding on that type of high that we're talking about with Kyson Terrakina. So I don't know. I think this one is like a true 50-50, could go either way. I don't know which way it's going to go.
Yeah, I have toss-up leaning Arnold, just because Gabe Arnold is one of the top recruits in the country. If you're an state of Iowa wrestling fan from high school, you're going to know Gabe Arnold's name. He was the guy that always beat Tate Noctiborn, Iowa State's redshirt 184-pounder. So those two have a great history, a lot of respect between the two. And I'm giving Arnold the favor just because he has beaten an All-American. MJ hasn't quite done that, but he has shown the ability to do that. He just hasn't had the opportunity yet this season. So I'm favoring Arnold, but I agree with Jackie. This is a pretty good true toss-up.
It'll be a good one. It'll be a good test. I really like MJ just as a wrestler. You can definitely see he's maturing into his into the position. I liked in his answer at availability, it was like he was asked about what what's changed or something along those lines. And he said he made the comment about the weight. That was something I definitely noticed when we first saw him this season at the wrestle-offs, that he looked bigger, he looked more muscular, so you can definitely tell he's really filled in a lot better. So I'm excited to see how he handles it. He was, like I said, thrown into the wolves by having his first Cyhawk be wrestled at Carver, blanked on the name for it. So I'm excited to see what that looks like at Hilton, see how he feeds off that type of energy as such a young guy. But it'll be an interesting one for sure, especially, like we said, a big toss-up. 184, Will Feldkamp made his Cyclone debut this weekend, which was great. I'm excied to see him. He's going to go up against Brennan. God, what is this last
Don't
name?
ask me. Swofford.
Swofford? Okay. We're bad at
Swofford.
that. But no, he's definitely a mature guy in the lineup. He seems, like you said, cool, calm, and collected is his theme for the week. So I think he's going to be a guy who goes into this and could get bonus points for the team. So
yeah, Will Feldkamp is a pinner. I'm not going to say expect that necessarily, but pinners are often also very good at getting back points. So I actually have Feldkamp as a heavy favorite here. Brennan Swafford is, no offense, not that good. He lost to also returning All-American Trey Munoz 20-4 when Iowa wrestled Oregon State last week. So he can be exposed on his back. And Feldkamp and Trey Munoz are two guys that are right there at 184 challenging for All-American status. So I like Feldkamp here, and I actually like him by bonus points.
Yeah, I'm excited to see him in this environment. He seems very excited, seems very appreciative of what the Cyhawk means to everyone. And I did get the chance to ask him about how he felt being so anticipated by the fan base. And he just seems like a little kid in the candy store about it, just very excited. So that'll be a good match. Again, a good opportunity to see a guy thrive in the environment of what Hilton can be in these crazy scenarios. 197, Julian Broderson is ranked this week at number 24, and he's going up a guy who's number 22, Zach Glazier. Is that how you pronounce it? Glazier?
Good question. That's how I
When your
pronounce it.
practices. This is like my biggest pet peeve with announcers, but we're not announcers, we're podcasters. I feel like this one's going to be low scoring.
Yep.
And it's just going to be.
That's very fair.
It'll be low scoring. It'll be like a nice. I lean Broderson.
I have toss-up leaning Broderson as well. I've liked what I've seen out of Broderson this year. He does have that danger potential where he can throw a guy. I'm not expecting that, but he does present that possibility. And you have that when you can go upper body. It can open up the lower body, some leg attacks and things like that. But I'm with Jackie. I see something like a 6-4, 6-3 type of match here. Again, another true toss-up, but I'll lean Broderson just because it's at home. He's going to have that dad strength. He's going to have his daughter in the stands, and let's see what he can do there.
And I'm hoping that because it's been low scoring for him here, kind of like a slow start outside of the pin that he got at Hilton, I hope he channels that even more with, again, same thing. The energy is going to be even crazier. And he is definitely someone who's very emotionally driven. So hopefully we see some more out of him this weekend. And then we close it out with Younger Bastida. I am sad that Cassiope is not wrestling. Again, another guy who got caught in the gambling situation, but it's also a positive for Iowa State fans. Younger Bastida, I'll let you take this one. What was the phrase you used?
Oh, so Iowa is sending out a nice young man named Bradley Hill, a freshman, and Bradley will get spiked like Younger Bastida's headgear. It's going to be a rough one for Bradley Hill. He wrestled last week against Oregon's Boone McDermott, lost 4-1, didn't show much offense, didn't show much anything. It was a very heavyweight type of match. The thing with Younger Bastida is he doesn't wrestle heavyweight type matches. He is going to go out there and put you on the mat time and time and time again until he gets a tech fall. And that's, to be brutally honest, that's what I'm expecting this match. I was texting with KJ Pilcher of the Cedar Rapids Gazette, just, hey, is there a possibility of Iowa throwing out Ben Keeter, who is the number 2 ranked recruit in the nation last year behind Cody Chittum? And there is not. Ben Keeter also plays football for Iowa. He was a 4-star football recruit. So he's going to be with the football team until the football season's done. Then he'll transition over to the wrestling room. So I will be sending out Bradley Hill, and I don't think Bradley Hill has much of a shot of anything here. So this is one where I am the most confident in. I have heavy favorite for Younger Bastida.
Mm-hmm.
It's at bare minimum, I think, a major decision, and I'm expecting a tech fall.
I mean, basically, it's looking like we're going to go into that heavyweight match.
Mm-hmm.
No
It
one
could decide the dual meet.
Yeah, I think it'll be good to. You'll have a good feel of where we're headed, essentially. What was your final prediction score from your own math? I did not do my own one, so I'll let you.
My math has 19-12 Iowa State, but that could very easily change 16-15 depending on if a couple of those toss-ups go the way of Iowa. So somewhere in the range of 16-15, 19-12 is what I have. Now, again, if all the toss-ups go Iowa's way, then suddenly you're looking at 16-12 for Iowa. So it is one of those dual meets that could go either way. It's just going to depend on if Iowa State wrestles like they did against Wisconsin. I think Iowa State wins because they wrestled out of their minds seemingly against Wisconsin. So if that happens again, I feel pretty confident that Iowa State's going to win for like Jackie said, the first time since 2004.
Well, it's one of those, it's like, who wants it more?
Mm-hmm. And they both want it, that's for sure.
Yep. And I just think that some of the off-season stuff has just kind of knocked Iowa just a tiny bit. Not in talent. I'm not talking talent, because I'm never going to sit here and pretend that Iowa is in a talented program and a dominant program. They are clearly showing it in the rankings and have shown it year after year. But I just feel like Iowa State might want it just a little more.
Mm-hmm.
So
they got motivation for it, that's for sure.
Yeah. So it's going to be a really good one. I'm like I said in the beginning, I'm super, super pumped. We'll both be there. We are on Twitter all the time. So if there's literally any questions that anyone has, please tweet it at us, DM us, fill my DMs. I don't care.
My DMs are not open.
I was just saying, you can fill my DMs. I do keep them open.
But you can't tweet at me. Feel free to tweet at me. That's perfectly fine.
Yeah, I think I can speak for both of us that I definitely enjoy when people reach out and ask questions.
Absolutely.
Just because, I mean, we're living and breathing this every day. So nice to give out some of the energy. Mm-hmm. But yeah, like I said, I'm feeling a Cyclone win. Knock on wood. I'm very superstitious. I can't even, we didn't even share. How many media members are coming?
Oh my gosh.
The coverage?
So 22 have been credentialed media outlets. 22 media outlets have been credentialed to be on the concourse, and 19 have been credentialed to be on the mat doing photo and video and stuff like that. I think I remember Andy, Iowa State's sports information director, saying that there was going to be over 40 up on the concourse people, media types from all the 22 organizations. So it sounds like almost every organization is sending 2 people. So there's going to be a lot of media involved just outside of ESPN and all of that. So it's going to be something electric for sure.
It's going to be a circus.
That too.
So we're pumped. As always, like I said, follow us on Twitter. We'll have so much content on Sunday. There's more content coming this week. I had a chance to interview Jamie Pollard, so I'll be writing up something to get out on the front page for you guys to read. So yeah, I mean, follow along. We'll be there. So get your tickets, turn on ESPN, and yeah, we'll see how this all plays out. Thanks for listening, guys. And thanks again to, I guess I forgot to thank them in the beginning. Thanks to our sponsors, Fairway, as always, huge supporters of the sport. I'm sure some of their people will be in the stands cheering on the Cyclones. So yeah, thanks for listening, guys, and we'll chat soon.